Get ready for the greatest roast of all time, the Roast of Tom Brady, a Netflix live event happening May 5th. Hosted by Kevin Hart, the 7-time world champion gets his cleats held to the fire by famous friends and frenemies on an unforgettable night where everything is fair game. Tune in on May 5th at 5 p.m. Pacific time for the Roast of Tom Brady, live only on Netflix.
The most exciting part of a vacation stay at a home rental? Easy. It's being greeted upon arrival with a rusted lockbox affixed to the underside of a stranger's condo. Yeah, you simply twist knobs, click gears, jiggle it, and then rip it off its moorings, and voila! Your prize is a key to a questionable home rental and maybe tetanus. When you just want to get your vacation started by actually getting into your room, it matters where you stay. At Hilton, we deliver your key right to your phone on the Hilton Honors app. Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by CarMax. CarMax is putting peace of mind back in car shopping by putting you in the driver's seat to find a ride that's right for you. Because CarMax believes you shouldn't just settle for a car. You should love your car. That's why every car they sell has CarMax certified quality so you can be sure, with upfront pricing that's the same for every customer. So don't settle. Find love at first drive. CarMax, the way car buying should be. Start shopping now at CarMax.com.
Hello, this is your host, Les Bubka, and welcome to today's episode of Anxious Black Belt, a podcast that focuses on karate, mental health, and everything in between. If you enjoy my content and would like to support, there's few easy ways to do it. First one is simply to listen to another episode. This helps a lot. Second one, you can buy me a coffee via buy me a coffee link in the show notes. And the third one is to support my work. I'm an author and selling few books. You can find them on Amazon or directly on my website. Link in the show notes below. If you would like to stay up to date with what's coming up, be sure to follow me on social media at lesbubka. And now let's get back to the show. Enjoy! Hello Tommy, it's always a pleasure to have you. How have you been?
I'm very well, thanks you, buddy. I'm very, very well indeed. How about yourself?
I'm very good, although tired today. You're the third recording today, so a bit tired, but very, very well. How's the preparation for a fight? You're fighting in 3 days, if I've seen properly.
Yeah, I'm fighting Saturday night. I have to say the preparation's not gone amazingly well. I've had to travel a lot for work, like just not nearly been able to do enough sparring as I should and train. I still train a couple of times a week, but I've not been able to do so at the normal frequency. But it'll be fine. It's 3 rounds, so it'll be fine.
So why is it only 3 rounds? Is it like exhibition, or is it the rules for amateurs, or?
It's just because it's a local home show, so there can be as many rounds as you like, but you've got a lot of fighters to fit into one evening. This day starts at like 4 o'clock. Children gets older and heavier. So if you were starting to do 5, 6, 7 rounds, it'd just be too big and long of an event.
Okay, well, so I was always thinking that, is 10 rounds is minimum, but that's how ignorant I am.
No, so like even down to professional fights, most professional fights for the first 50, 60 are 4 rounds, up to 6. So even on say big shows, this is a local show I'm doing, but even on say a big televised show, a lot of things are 4, 5, 6 rounds. Only when there's lots and lots of money involved does it start to go 10, 12 rounds.
Did you, because you had a chance, I know that you said that you didn't have a chance to prepare yourself properly, but then you had a chance to train in different gyms and with different coaches. I've seen the video you're posting. How was that experience? Because I know you love going and experiencing all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate that I've got lots of friends and people I know that are good trainers and good training partners. So wherever I'm training in the country, I can usually find someone to do something with. If I was working in Guildford, I'd come knocking on your door, I'd be like, Les, I've got a fight in a couple of days. Let's do some stuff. Let's do some pads. I think it's really important you just say hello to people and ask. And most people are always really happy to help or do stuff with you. I've never ever come across people saying, "Oh, they're too busy" or they can't do something. So yeah, it's cool. Every coach has got their own different style,
Mm.
but it's good also to pick up new stuff, new tactics, new strategies. I tend to, because they're people that know me, they know how I fight and how I move anyway, so it's a bit easier than say complete strangers. They know I'm southpaw, they know the kind of ranges that I like. But yeah, I'm very very blessed to have lots of good friends all over the country that I can drop into with very little notice and do some stuff if I have to. Obviously, it's nicer and more convenient to have a regular training camp, but you gotta do what you gotta do, and I think it's always good. People say, don't think of it as a fight camp. Just think of your entire life as a fight camp. It's not,
Mm.
oh, I've only had 6 weeks or only had 8 weeks. You've had 20 odd years of stuff. It all adds up.
Yeah, but as well in a kind of amateurs, you don't know much about your opponent, so there's no point having a camp that you're preparing for one person. You really don't know how they're going to be fighting if you don't know them, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now I've seen the chap that I'm fighting because he's fought someone from my gym before, so I've got a little bit more intelligence.
Mm.
Um, And today's age, as soon as you get someone's name, if they put any fight of theirs on YouTube, you can find it pretty quickly
Mm.
anyway. But it's not worth obsessing about it because you can watch someone fight on YouTube or you can watch someone's competition and everybody looks really slow when you're not fighting. Like when you watch fighting and fighting's happening and you're here, everyone looks like, "Oh, I'd miss that. You're like, I do all these things. And as soon as you're
Mm.
in the ring or in the competition, your perception of that speed and your perception of what you do completely changes. It's the same way when you do a competition and you think you've been pretty fast, then you look back and you're like, who's that slow old bastard over there moving? It's,
Yes,
uh,
I was actually thinking exactly what you said when we had that little sparring, and I thought,
yeah,
oh, he's so big, he's gonna be slow. I'm gonna go here, there, and then you're standing in there, and that glove lands on your face. That's way faster than I've seen it on the videos. This is way faster, and it's heavier as well. But that's kind of learning through the practice, isn't it? You can do as much boxing on the pads, as much sparring, friendly sparring with your partner who you know, and you know what to expect. And when you step up even to a friendly sparring, and you don't know somebody, it's totally different experience, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It always takes people a little while to figure things out, get comfortable. And that's a good thing about a fight. It's not on long enough for people to get comfortable most times.
Mm,
So that's what makes them quite fun, that they're really unpredictable. If you've got a sparring partner you're always doing stuff with, you will
mm.
always fall into a pattern or a routine, or um, it becomes a lot more give, take, which is also nice, but it's, you know, sparring strangers or people you haven't sparred with before,
Mm.
that always unlocks little extra things that you didn't know before or hadn't tried before, which is cool.
Yeah, I love when people come into our dojo and just for that excitement that you don't know what's gonna happen, how they're gonna move, and what's gonna do. It's always a good session just to test yourself and test your friends and see your students, especially how the students react as well. So one of the best compliments I had from a German team who came to us and they said, even your white belts you don't see fear. They just go and spar because we're sparring on every session, at least a half
Yeah,
an hour, right? And they said, "Wow, how are you doing that? That they are not having fear in their eyes. White belt coming with the seventh dan and they just punch in the face, right?
yeah,
And I think it's because we do very friendly sparring, so we are conscious about the injuries and brain injuries, and we below the boxing amateurs, we're just doing it for as a hobbyists. So we do very light sparring, but even throwing that amount of rounds gets you that awareness that with the respectful people, you're not gonna get really injured.
absolutely. You always end up, you vary your pace, don't you? People that can take it a bit, and
Mm,
you ramp it up and then you ramp it down, and then if you're a good respectful partner, you can hit it just at the right note of enough contact to be meaningful,
mm,
respectful enough because you've still got half an hour of sparring. You can. It's beautiful when you get the right mix of people. You can do some really cool stuff.
mm. I was listening to your interview with your Spanish friend. Sorry, I'm terrible with names, so I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
And then I was watching your take on methodology in boxing,
Hmm.
and it's quite very different. Because your friend is promoting that, you're both saying that boxing doesn't have a very, how did you put it? Not intelligent, but educated coaches. They just get you on the, just do it and see how it goes instead of being overcoached like in karate, right?
Yeah,
Then your Spanish friend saying that they're missing people a little bit more technical and kind of that coaching and guiding um, orientated, and that's why they are successful because they've got that martial art background and they bringing that coaching together. So which one is obviously I think for you is the more crude that I'm making air quotes here,
yeah.
crude crude way suits you better. I think that's my personal feeling.
I think that it's by far and away a lot more common for most boxing clubs to be uh, absorption based coaching. So very little is said to you unless you are a peak athlete. If you are one of the main people that's going out every couple of weeks and doing their competitions, but if you're the average person going there, you're going to get very little guidance. You
Mm,
will learn. So when I'm very careful to say you're not over taught,
mm,
but that is also a good thing in that you you might only hear a couple of sentences in your first couple of months, but they're a really good set of sentences,
mm,
as opposed to 8 books worth of comment from that you might get from a martial arts instructor.
mm,
I was martial arts. I think, or I would often say, are for middle class people. You know, middle class people, people with soft hands, and that like to talk, debate, discuss. As a rule, I would say if you were to take a cross section of a martial arts club and a cross section of a boxing club, most of the people at your boxing club are bricklayers, welders, gardeners, mechanics. They're those types of people, those types of background. And then you might go to say your average kung fu or karate club, and you'll get accountants and managers, and it's not hard and fast, and it changes everywhere around the world.
mm,
But I'd say that you as the consumer of the product of going to that club, a middle class person is going to have a different set of demands and expectation than maybe a working class person. The working class
mm,
person might not need the warm hellos and the welcome pack and all the stuff. They just want to blast the bags and the pads and have a bit of sparring. Whereas Dave, the accountant, he might want, what is this kata? Where is it from?
mm,
And how does it work? What is the story of my suit? Why are the belts this color? There's lots more chat. But
mm,
again, obviously it all varies. I'm talking generalizations here, but yeah, I'd say that in the main, the boxing teaching culture is you have a look, you have a go, and you get refined. And the martial arts culture is we'll try and refine you really early, and then it comes more personal afterwards.
mm,
But it's quite regimented and strict. This foot here, this hand here. Yeah.
mm.
But again, they're all just different pedagogies. Uh, um, I Japanese go out there and say, um, in that a Japanese teaching culture is it gets devolved to students really quickly. You're like, oh well, you watch the purple belt, and the purple belt watches the brown belt, and the brown belt watches the first dan, and the first dan watches the fifth dan.
Mm,
It's I would feel cheated in a martial arts culture now, if I was honest. If I was to go to a club and then it's Wayne, the green belt, teaching me, and not the instructor I'm paying.
mm.
From my perspective, I'll be like, I'm not paying for Wayne, the green belt. I'm paying for you, the black belt. Um, but it's interesting that becomes the norm, and there's so many unpaid, untrained teachers in a martial arts club, and
Well,
people just accept it. They pay their money for a class and end up teaching a kids class, and they're like, "What happened here? Where did my life go wrong?"
yeah, exactly. It is a very strange setup. So we never had it like that. It's, like you said, people want me there to teach, so I'm making sure that I going to everybody
Yeah,
and correcting. Or I actually, a couple of years ago, I was listening and reading about overcoaching, and you're one of the reasons as well. So I stopped overcoaching and I let people do. But some of my students, all the grades saying, "Oh, you didn't correct him on this." No, let them experience. The corrections come later. Just let them try first, kicking, let them try punching, let them do their own mistakes, and then we're gonna have it. And interestingly, today I was talking with Georgia from Australia, who is a um, coach for kickboxing for people with trauma. And she said that when you
Mhm.
overcoach, you stop people learning because when you make a mistake, you allow your brain to be more having more plasticity and develop new skills. So that mistakes during the learning actually makes them learn instead of just copy, if that makes sense. I probably butchered it what she was explaining to me because I'm from the lower brain class, if you say so.
I think there's the kind of a key phrase is something called soft coaching. So soft coaching. Let's say I've spotted you doing. I'll use a martial arts example. I might have spotted you doing quite a bad roundhouse kick, for argument's sake. Now I could stop what you're doing and explain to you and demonstrate and show how I do it, and then verbalize it. Or I could just look at you and go, and you see me do that, and you think, okay, what am I doing wrong? And if I walk past
Mm,
and go, that lets
mm,
me know, right, okay, it's getting there, it's getting better. I can be almost non-verbal with a wink, a smile, is that really what you want to be doing? Was that good
mm,
enough? Like those little things, because I don't want you to be starting all the time. I
mm,
just want you to flow with it. A really good explanation is you can make someone effective, but they have to make themselves efficient in a way. Like I
mm,
can show you how to effectively throw a jab in 2 minutes, but it's down to you then to make that efficient and better and sharper and faster and more strategic. So I think a lot of martial arts jump to efficient before they
mm.
really cover effective. Yeah. If
Yeah,
you can
I
you
can
can
see
pop
that.
out
Yeah.
your left hand fast and land it on someone's face, it's a jab. It's not the
Mm.
prettiest one in the world, but it's the same jab everyone else has. You can just make it better now.
Yeah, that's what I found when I moved to UK. I couldn't find a really suited for me karate style, so I went for boxing. Shout out to AKA Guildford Club. And first thing what they said is like, "Wow, your strikes are very precise. We don't do it like that. Why are you going so, you're losing your speed because you're trying to be so technically correct that there's no need for it. Just throw it." It's like,
Yeah.
huh? But everybody says to me I have to have an elbow down this way, 34.5 degree
Yeah.
for efficiency. It's like, okay, well, try your stuff, and it feels so much more natural.
Yeah, exactly. And there's always a good middle ground. There's good things to be learned from all coaching styles because what martial arts coaching is good for is it feels more like a premium product. There's a lot more attention to service and your mindset and your happiness and how well you feel with it and fit in with the well, as a rule, generally, I think the customer service in martial arts is actually pretty good. I do refer to things in terms of customer service. If you're paying for a lesson, you're a customer. um, and so, yeah, there's loads of different nuances to teaching, but yeah, over teaching is massively endemic in martial arts, and boxing is suffering because of it too, because they've jumped into the tutorial lifestyle now. And I
Mm,
say it somewhat ironically as someone that does YouTube channels and stuff, but there are more than ever before people saying, you've been jabbing wrong your entire life, or actually, you should know, you'll see TikTokers go, a hook this way, no, this way. Yeah, people will put forward what they think as the orthodoxy. This is the best
mm,
way, the only and here's 12 slip and hit drills, and here's 15 something else drills. We're drowning in drills.
mm,
We don't need that many. Drowning in pad work as well. There's more pad work than has ever been done before. There's crazy, weird bastards out there holding their own pads and hitting them. And it's like, that was okay and kind of fun for lockdown, but don't do that again. Don't do that anymore.
yeah.
Only crazy people do that.
I'm gonna change a little bit subject because as you hear, I can use it to help myself as well because that's the area of interest to me. Plus, I know many instructors looking up to you in the way you're teaching seminars.
Mhm.
What's the secret? for your popularity. Because, every time when I'm teaching with you, it's for me inside, fuck, he's going again. There's nothing I can do to beat you in kind of delivery. You've got a superb way of delivery with mixture of the, great skills, humor, and just personality. And that's always a problem for me, thinking how I'm gonna engage people after Tommy, because there's not much I can do.
That's very sweet, and you needn't think anything like that. I think for me, it's energy management. So you've got to have a really good eye on the people you've got and the room you've got, and there's a like an energy frequency that I want people at, where they're working hard and they're having fun and they're doing stuff. And if I see someone dipping or chatting or doing it, I'm all over it really fast. And so energy management for me is I've got to look at partners that are training and the whole collective class, and I try and make sure that that's at the energy that I want it. And my preferred pace, and that's why you see me doing things like having the whistle, and I issue quite clear commands, and I raise my voice and I shout a lot. I always lose my voice at seminars. Like, I'm quite, it sounds bad, but I'm quite controlling in a seminar. Like, this is the pace I'm setting, this is what I expect, let's go, let's do it. And I think energy management, a lot of martial arts instructors aren't good at, because it's quite soft. And like, I will go to a multi-style seminar and there'll be me shouting, swearing, blowing my whistle, trying to put energy in, and then there'll be like a softly spoken wrist lock defense class on the mat next to me, where there's no energy, there's nothing alive on that mat. So yeah, I think knowing what energy suits your demographic and then keeping to it. And anytime it dips below, if people are flagging, they're not getting it, immediately being all over it like it's a fire. I want to make sure the energy is high. If people are bored of a technique, if people are bored, you've got to move on. Or if they didn't get it, or it was too complicated for them, or they got it really fast because they're more skilled than you thought they were going to be. You've got to be able to take all that data in and keep the pace high. So yeah, that's what I try and do. I try and do everything I can to set good pace and good energy. And if I can make people laugh or get their attention, I can hold it for longer. There's a lot of people where they'll speak at one tone all the way through. And so for me, I need to give you a kick up the arse every couple of sentences, just to put a bit more passion in there. Passion is really important. And Eastern martial arts are almost like the passion killers out there. You're told to hold it all in. Whereas if you went to America right now and went to a high school wrestling class, there's going to be like, right, clap, boom, boom, boom. There's energy. You go to a competitive judo club somewhere in Tokyo University Judo Club, there's going to be energy. So energy management is a big one. And I was very fortunate to have instructors for most of my time learning where they've been good at energy management, and so I've stolen it, really. I've made that my own.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but we taught, I won't say where because people might be offended, but we taught the seminar, and I remember you came to me and said, well, this crowd is really hard to start moving. They are really, really, really traditional group. And you said they're really tough to do anything, isn't it? So how are you dealing with the people? I think it's dominant in the very traditional karate classes when they are all being told, don't say anything, don't ask questions, don't do anything. How do you wake up the crowd like that when they start being, unmovable, and whatever you're trying, they go a little bit stagnant and don't want to do anything really. They want to do, but they don't express the energy. They don't get involved. They just doing stuff, and that's it.
I guilt them. So I'm like, look, you've only got me for 60 minutes. If you give me 60 minutes of it, like, I try and make it tangible, my expectations. I might be with you for 45 minutes at a multi-style seminar. please do what I ask of you and put the right energy in. It's important. I make it important to me and make it personal. It's that, I want you to take notes. I want you to get your phone out and film it. I set my expectations because I'm also a big attendee of seminars, and I've been to very good ones and very bad ones. And I know that it can get so exhausting. You forget when you're teaching how tiring it is for the people, because I've done it a couple of reps and let you have a go, but you've done it for 90 reps for each technique I've shown you. It's a lot more tiring to attend. So I think you have to have good empathy. So I think a good seminar instructor attends other seminars, because then sometimes you're too disconnected from what it's like to be an attendee. So I think if I was to offer advice, you want to be a good seminar instructor, attend seminars so you build your empathy, have an energy frequency that you want to run it to, and be really clear with your expectations. So, for example, I might say, we're going to really slow it down now, and I want you to pay very strong focus to my words. Or it might be, we're going to ramp up the pace now, and I want you to forget technicalities and just do it. Setting the pace and the tone, and it's my job to notice whether people are flagging or not. And some people just like different styles of instructor. Like for some people, I am too much. And with the whistling and the swearing and the contact, and I will say, like, I don't put a huge amount of contact in seminars. Like I'll have people move a bit, but you can get hit a lot more than going to a Tommy Joe Moore seminar. But for some people, that's scary enough. Like the bit of contact I have put in there, or that bit of upper body grappling for that demographic might be bloody terrifying. But yeah, it's hard. You will always have people that disengage or are not into it, especially at a multi-style seminar. And I've got to be frank in that, what I might do isn't for you, but what you or your instructor might do in 2 hours' time might not be for me, but I'll still do it. And you won't find anyone say that I go to a multi-style seminar and don't do everybody else's session too. Like whatever it is. I was bloody doing kata at seminar the other, like I was following people doing all this stuff. I don't have a fucking clue what I'm doing, but I'll do it and I'll find value in it. And so you should, like it really bugs me. Like, and it's hard because if people don't do it because of age, I get that. That makes a lot of sense. Energy, manage yourself personally. But there's also a lot of people that will go to a multi-style seminar, wear the gear of power, watch for 4 hours, and then do their 30-minute thing. And I'm like, come on, man. Like you've just missed out on 4 hours training. What's wrong with you? Like this should be exciting for you. I think a lot of people have fatigued themselves. They don't love it like they used to. A lot of martial arts instructors are like a lot of school teachers. You get teachers that are very passionate, and you get a teacher that has been teaching maths for 30 years and hates maths and hates kids, and they're still teaching. And I think a lot of people that teach martial arts are that maths teacher.
I tend to agree. But, in defense of some situations, because personally, I like to get involved. I like to train on the seminars I'm teaching because it gives me a personal connection with each person who I train, and it just widens my circle of friends. But sometimes, especially when I'm organizing, if I don't go and take a pictures, nobody will.
Yeah.
So it is like when you're organizing something, it is, I want to train, but I want to make sure that people got the value from the club and everybody likes a nice picture of them doing stuff, right? So it is kind of between. But if I'm like, a guest teacher somewhere, I just like you go from one to another and try everything. But if I'm really, really tired, just say, need to sit down and stuff. And anxiety doesn't help sometimes, overwhelmed and just need the mental break from it.
Yeah. And what I have seen, and what is also good, I'll speak up on defense of some of the instructors that watch but don't do. At the very least, they might walk around the room and guide or advise people that are struggling with it. So that's also cool to see. So people don't want to actively do it, but they're still actively helping the energy of that class. That's cool. Like, I think Or if I'm not going to do it, but I'll take some pictures, or I'll make the tea, or I'll do something. Like, that's good respect. I think that's because everyone's putting their time in. So it's good to respect other people, even if their stuff's not quite for you. You've got to do it. But I love it. Like, I love all martial arts. So if there's I'm stiff as a board, but if one of the things that's on is a capoeira session, and that's the only thing I can go to, I'll do that capoeira session, or I'll have fun. Like, I think as soon as you lose that love for what you're doing, reassess whether you should still be teaching. If you don't love it enough to go, I'm going to look really shit at capoeira for half an hour. If you're not willing to do that, is it time for you to think, maybe I should try something different? Maybe take up golf.
I think as well there's an element of people don't want to get embarrassed. It's kind of,
Oh, yes.
oh, I don't know what they're doing, so I better not do, so I don't lose my face, right? I think there's a lot of that coming from the higher grades in martial arts, especially in karate. It's like I cannot lose face because I'm the teacher, I'm the top dog, and it's gonna be not looking good if I do a fool of myself, you know. So I think that's a part of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this comes from the cultural baggage of martial arts. If I'm there with my black belt on, which is now a white belt again because it's all shredded, and I'm used to crisp, clear, everything it's all done this way in my dojo. You don't want to look like you're in a kerfuffle or confused. People worry about being seen to be weak or inefficient or ineffectual at stuff in front of, especially if they've brought a load of their students with them too. But I don't think if a student sees their instructor trying something and maybe they're not perfect at it, and then they judge their instructor, they were probably always going to be a shit student.
Mm,
If a student sees your instructor having a go, that it should be like an officer, an army officer. An army officer should be able to run as fast as every soldier and do every job a soldier does and be the first to volunteer to do it. And so I think if
mm,
you're a martial arts instructor, you're an officer, and therefore, I'm awake and running before you, and my shoes are shinier than your shoes. I'm gonna be involved. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try, and I think that sets a good culture for the rest of the club. If the instructors always seem to try and have a go, the students are going to pick up on that, and that's going to be a good energy that they've got in the future.
yeah, and I think as well, if your instructors shows you that they can do it and they're having fun whilst doing it, it creates more open-minded students. Oh, I can go somewhere and actually enjoying it, try different things instead of shy away from it, if that makes sense.
And then some people, to avoid that, waste your time. So it sounds bad because a lot of people do this, but I might show something and they'll go, we've got something like that, but we do it a bit like this. And it's like, that's really cool. But you've now wasted 5 minutes showing me how when I do this, you do that. And that's time I could have spent moving around this room. And it's your way of, because when people say that, often it's this is my excuse for it not looking like you've just shown me. It's we tend to do it this way. And it's like, well, that's cool. But you do that 99% of your time. Try it the way I've just shown you, please, for now. You can
I find,
slag it off in your own time, but don't. I always call it caveating. Well, we always do it different, or we never kick to the head, or it's always a we never or we always statement, and it's just chat. Just do the thing you were shown and have fun with it. You can decide if it's any good later.
for me, it's actually quite opposite, especially when I'm training with you. With
Yeah.
things that people showing me, I'll do it like this. I try and you're like, no fucking way. I'm not gonna armbar him like that because you're just gonna lift me up and we're gonna go. So it's just like, how do I need to do it so it makes sense that I can actually move you a little bit? There's a good example was the one we were
But
training on the knife seminar, right?
yeah. But then I also it's quite funny sometimes though, because sometimes I'll go to a seminar and they'll actively refuse to put something on me, like, oh well, I'm not going to do it on you, I'm not going to do it on you. But for people that haven't met me, I'm not a giant. I'm like 6'2", 6'3". I'm 18 stones. I'm a big man, but I'm not a giant man. And I think sometimes it's an easy excuse. Oh, well, it would never work on him. It's like, well, there are a lot of people that are my size and bigger in the world. So you're going to have to find a way. Like you said, well, I can't do it like that, but I'll do it like this. You should be mentally plastic enough to find a way around it, or discuss with your partner. Like, is this actually hurting you? Is this actually working? And your partner should be honest enough to go, yes, no, a little bit. That honesty, being a good uke, it's not about knowing how to break full. It's about good honesty. I think, like, not being such of a dick that, like, I'm Mr. Nothing works on me, but also being honest enough to say, yeah, that wasn't quite on, or didn't quite work. And that's it's really awkward to navigate that. So I understand people that say nothing, but that's why I like to rotate partners a lot at seminars. You will very rarely see me not do a rotation. Every new technique, I tend to do a rotation. Sometimes people stay paired off, like you might have people that might be, say, on the autistic spectrum that don't like that change, or there might be, this is a big generalization, but some women don't like things near throats, and for all those kind of reasons. So I never penalize people for not swapping, but I will reward and recognize and encourage those that do. That's a big thing for me. So many body types out there, and a seminar is a golden from God opportunity to fight other bodies that you might never get to fight normally in your club, in your village hall, in your area of the world. You might never get the chance to try and take down a 7-foot Belarusian man. Like, this is your golden opportunity. There's a really good, I don't know which Gracie it is. I think it might be Hickson Gracie. But he talks about how when you first start out and you see a big person, you go, oh, how terrible, how scary. And then when you get good, you go, how interesting. Like that. That's a good mark of a martial artist. When you look at a problem and go, that's an interesting problem. You might not be able to solve it, but just finding the problem interesting is a good sign.
Yeah, I kind of I used to try to find a solution to win with the much bigger opponents, because pretty much everybody's bigger than me. But like you said, I dropped that thing and I just accepted. Sometimes you're just gonna lose, and there's nothing you can do. You can try the best, and it just won't work. So accept that, have fun, and try your best.
Yeah, exactly. I think the biggest thing that kills the martial arts world, if there was one problem, one illness to solve, it's floating arm disease. I think most 9 out of 10 martial artists suffer from. I will do a super slow-mo punch and my arm will float suspended in animation like witchcraft for the next 7 seconds as you do your thing. And even in your world, like, I see things, in the kind of karate world, I'll see like highly practical bunkai application, and it will suffer from floating arm disease. Floating
I
arm disease is everywhere.
I call it the frozen karate.
Yeah.
So, freeze. But I think there's a physiological reason for it. But as always, martial artists inflated it, because we done few testing. If you hit somebody who is not expecting, they've got that freeze for a split second. And I think with time, it is, oh, if I hit him, he's gonna keep that hand, and then he's gonna keep that hand for a second longer, and he's gonna go for a second longer, and then we got a 30 seconds frozen, and then I can do 15 techniques, which looks great, but it's creating habits. I've got lots, because most of my students are people from different systems, so I've got a huge problems with relearning people that we don't keep the hand, we coming back. And when I'm with paired with people on seminars, sometimes somebody takes me to do demo on me, and you can see that confusion on their face when I go punch, come back. Not fast, but it's one floating movement. It's like, why did you do that? Bring that hand back, because I'm gonna be doing stuff. So it is a problem, but every sport, every art's got some issues.
Yeah. So, but floating arm one. If I could banish one from the entire scene, that would be the one I'd pick on. It's important. You need the floating arm for the first 15, 20 reps, and then the floating arm needs to go. You do need it sometimes, but then people forget when to fire the floating arm. Like, you've done your suit. Thank you for your service, floating arm. It's now time for you to go away. You know, like I think.
Yeah. I think going back into what you said about the different demographics for martial arts, one of the problems we're seeing in my club is people not wanting to punch you in the face. They
Yeah.
always goes sideways and you stood there, but you didn't hit, that's my head. Come here. And we've got a new student actually, really lovely girl. And she said, "Oh, but I don't want to punch you in the face." But hey, that's the goal of it. That's my face. You've got gloves. That's where it goes. Oh, but I don't want to hit you. So it goes to the sides. That's the
And
other
that's what
problem, which I would banish.
it's why I tend to have quite physical warm-ups. Like, my warm-ups are typically games, and they are contact-based games. So you have to push, shove, grapple, slap each other a bit. Like, I think if you can break that taboo early of being hit, poke, stuff happening, it's less weird when I ask you to do it later. Whereas if we do a warm-up of star jumps and push-ups and knee twists, I'm still not ready to hit, poke, prod, throw people. Like,
Hmm.
to get people ready for wrestling, I tend to do something called giraffe wrestling. So when two giraffes fight, they wrap their necks around each other.
Yeah.
So I get people, no hands. We've got to go neck to neck and just use our heads to manipulate, to push, to pull. It's a stupid little game. It's giraffe wrestling, but
Mm.
it gets you used to a bit of competition, a bit of contact. Your ear might get a bit red. Your face might get a bit sore if someone's got a beard, but it gets you mentally ready and physically ready for a bit of friction. You know, all fighting is friction, whether I'm grappling or striking. If there's no friction, there's no fighting. You
Mm.
know, for me. So even if it's very slow, you still, you know, even drilling slow, I should still grip you hard, and I still do. There should always be a sense of friction going on.
Mm. Do you coming up with those going games or do you stealing them from other people?
All sorts. So some I come up with, some I steal and then I change. Um, some I get bored of and forget, and then find them in an old YouTube video that I've done,
Mm.
and launch them again. I try to bring a new set of games to each seminar if I can. Um, this is where it gets quite hard for me because
You're teaching a lot.
I teach a lot,
Mm.
and therefore there's a lot of people. A portion, say a third or a half of people, might have trained with me before
Mm.
and have done that game, but then the other half haven't. So it's always, I have to try and make adjustments and play with what might work and what not. But I did coaching qualifications with England boxing a year
Mm.
and a bit ago, and they trained the guys that go to the Olympics. And they were talking about how their general warm-ups, they don't do them anymore. Everything is gamified. Even if you are the top level amateur heavyweight going to the Olympics on the squad, you still will play games where you bounce the ball, goes in the air, bam, 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 catch it again. You'll
Mm.
still play, slap-based games. You'll still do those fun things. You'll play stuck in the mud and dodgeball, and so even people at the very highest levels, gamified dynamic warm-ups
Mm.
are the way forward, and that's what most combat sports people are doing at the highest levels. They're making things games to be fun,
Mm.
to be active. Traditional warm-ups are kind of dead. Like a very I can't remember the last time I've done a circle your arms, bend your knees, twist your hips. I'd much rather have people play a game of tag or have people play a game of dodgeball because they're still moving, getting loose, breathing, but they're also being twatted in the face with a pad flying at 30
Mm.
miles an hour. If I can get the same workout and attributes, things like stretching are different because you're doing that strategically for a reason.
Mm.
But for most things, if I can get a bit of contact and a bit of friction in a warm up, makes my life easier instructing later when I want you to throw, slam, and hit each other.
Mm. Yeah, I'm kind of I've been playing with that, making a warm-ups, not traditional run around stuff, but I reverted back because my guys in the club are most plus 40, So, as Marek from Poland says, you might use martial arts in life sometime, but you will use your body every day. So I'm doing a warm up to mobilize the joints, flexibility. We do like animal movements. So kind of try to mobilize all the body. So I was like, should we do martial arts warm up or should I try to restore a little bit mobility? So I kind of do a free part of it. Restoration work, martial arts, sparring.
And,
Um,
and what you do well, which I very rarely see people do, is you add a bit of a mental warm up, with your 1, 3, 7 game and yes, no, and so on. So you're one of the very few people I see focus on waking the mind up as well as the body, which is really good to see. If you can get people solving problems or, asking questions at the start of a seminar or a session, is your brain in this dojo? Your body's in the dojo, but is your brain in the dojo? What can I do to bring it here? I think you do that very well.
Yeah, that's stolen from friends. I can't remember where I stole it. Oh no, I know where I stole it from. It was from my disability coaching. They had quite good games and ways to engage people with disabilities. Because, for example, we've got few people who've got the MS, so they cannot like move around and stuff. And when we do the game of flipping cones, so half of the cones are up, half down, everybody have to run and switch them around. So I found that some people cannot do that, so they kind of outside of the group. So they taught us how to make them engage, and you give them a timer, you give them a scoring points, just taking care of it. So they are part of the group in a game, but they don't do actual physical activity. So that kind of changed my way of thinking of kind of a group training, right? So it works, but I think like same problem as you've got. So many people who train with me on seminars that is like, yeah, he's gonna do that game. Luckily, not everybody can count to three, and it's difficult to count to three. So it's
Yeah,
it's it's a it's a fun and it's really good to break the ice because you're changing partners, like you said as well. And you get somebody new and you get embarrassed with that person because counting to three is not so easy when you start changing to yes and stomps and physical movements, and everybody can chill and relax and the atmosphere is better.
I think another important thing, if I was to give a piece of advice, I think one of the reasons why I get pretty good attendance at seminars and people tend to like it is you pick something disruptive that they may not have done in a very long time. So I get people come to a seminar, and the first thing I might get them to do is put your shoes back on, and we're going on a 15-minute walk, and we're going to find different types of people that we would attack if we had to. And we're going to look at why that might be. So you've just got in, you've taken off all your stuff, you've taken your shoes off, whatever, I'm going to completely mess with your mind and say, right, shoes back on, 15-minute walk, take your phone with you. Who have you seen that would make a good victim and why? Do that, come back, let's talk about it. And then let's see what we can do to mitigate it. Or I might not prepare you and say, right, the entirety of this seminar is going to be done with the curtains closed and the lights off. It's going to be very dark in here. And, and then halfway through, I'm going to put the lights on and you're going to be like, oh, you're blind. Doing just completely messing with people's idea of what this session is going to be and work like and look like is always a good thing. Or I'll set things like this. I'll have my whistle and I'll say at the very start, if I blow my whistle 3 times at any point today, I want you to all stop what you're doing, sit down immediately and pay immediate attention to me because an emergency's happened. And, halfway through, I'll go, bam, 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 and see how many people could remember that information, do the thing they were told. Practicing calling 999 after an accident. That's why I might have random sparring. I might go, right, you two are going to spar 6 seconds. I'm going to move one person out of the room. I'm going to be like, right, what was he wearing? What color shoes was he wearing? What color trousers was he wearing? What did his face look like? All these things mess with people's minds. I'm a bugger for starting sparring with noses touching, or starting sparring where my nose touches the back of your head. And people are like, oh, that's weird. I'm like, that's life. That's life sparring. It's just weird stuff that gets people a bit more switched on, because we get into a pattern and we get lazy. And a seminar, above all else, should be a pattern breaker. It should come in and mess up all the crayons and mess up all the paints. That's what it's there to do. Then you put them back in an order again. But I think a good seminar takes everything you thought was going to happen, go and see where it lands again. But things like take your people outside, take your people to a film, practice calling 999, get everyone downloading what 3 words on their phone and see if they can find each other like loved ones. This kind of stuff. Yeah, those kind of things require a good instructor should think about it. You should don't just go there and make up your plan on the spot. It's pre-work. People think it's off the cuff, but for every seminar I teach, there's probably 10 pages of stuff which I could only ever get through 3, but I've gone through that mental process of what for these people.
Yeah, for me it's the same. It always takes a couple of weeks. I know the seminar is already in the background. There's a plan creating. You're writing down. You think about it. Now I'm gonna change this, and it's kind of constant work in the background.
Yeah.
Every break in the training. Oh, what I'm gonna do in a seminar? I'm gonna do this. Let me try in training, see how it works, and then we're gonna put that in or taking it out. So people think it's just you're turning up and doing. And I think because lots of people actually do that with the session as well, right? No, I'm seeing that many martial artists just wing it.
Yeah.
Just come in and do it. There's no long planning, there's no short, there's no medium plan. That's what I love about sports, because you've got a season and you have to have a preparation, you have to have a recovery, you have to have a strength, you have to have a speed, technique. So I try to, my training is based heavily on wrestling methodology. So we've got the cycles that we do different things through the year. Although it's very difficult when you've got people coming once a week or every second week. So I understand that, but you cannot just go and today let's do kicks. Tomorrow let's do rolling. It's have to kind of tie each other, and I think that's what missing. In seminars and in training in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got some questions to you, dear sir.
Okay.
Only 3 because people are lazy on the internet. So I thought it's gonna have more, but hey ho. But they are very interesting one. From your
Okay.
best fans out there internationally. So we've got from UK, the awesome Mary Stevens is asking you if Tommy could only teach one out of Partitsu, World War II combatis, or historic boxing, which one it would be and why? That's gonna be fucking 3 hours, isn't it? Lecture.
I would say that if I was forced to only teach one, I would say that probably the World War II combative stuff is the nice mix between historical content and things that you can practically use today. Some of the Bartitsu stuff is very, very fun, but antiquated, and it's more of a historic pastime. You can have a go and explore how people did it, but a good portion of that you just would be very unwise to do today. The historic boxing is very interesting, but the word boxing and the notion of boxing puts off 9 out of 10 martial artists straight away, because in their mind they've already put it in a box which is nothing to do with martial arts. Like in their minds, it's something that's either a big fight on TV or something their mom and sister do down at the leisure centre on the pads. 1, 2, it's like most martial artists want nothing to do with it. So it's quite a hard sell. So you'd have to be really into it, a bit of a nerd to really like it. But the World War II combatives, there's lots of history, storytelling, drills, make it practical. Yeah, I would say if you force me to teach only one, that would be the one I personally get the most enjoyment out of doing. Yeah.
One thing I picked up from it, and I think might be a difference. So we're going to come back to questions, but what you personally think about that now popularity of boxercise? Is it good for boxing or is it a bad thing for boxing? Because I personally don't agree giving people qualification of holding pads after one day of online um, coaching. but then more people does boxing, so there's more chances that people gonna go to the gym actually, not be scared of it. So it's kind of
Yeah.
weird
I,
thing.
I have to say, I think it's mostly harmless, and I've got no real problem with it. Like, there's a lot of people, for example, in my normal working job, they know that I like and do boxing.
Hmm.
And they'll come up to me and they'll be really excited. They'll be like, oh, I've been doing this boxercise thing at the gym. It's really fun. And I've personally seen the life-changing power for some people of just 15 to 20 minutes hitting some pads with some other
Mm.
people. And that has boosted their confidence. Can they fight? No. But they're confident and they're happy and it's a cool thing for them, you know? And so I think the benefits of it far outweigh the drawbacks. And so you can learn to safely hold pads well enough in a day
Mm.
if you're not an idiot. Um, are you going to learn to be able to teach effective combinations? No, of course you're not. And you're not going to move like a fighter. But I think you just need to put it in an area that's nothing to do with fighting. It's a
Mm.
cardio game with pads. And that's cool. That like, and if that's the gateway drug for them to go, actually, I'd like to maybe start doing some more of this in a different way, that's phenomenal. You know, like
Mm.
in the same way, I'm very unbiased. A lot of people that are into the things that I'm into hate things like musical kata and people making their own forms. And I'm like, no, that's cool. Whatever gets people into this game is awesome in my book. And if
Mm.
you need to go through a 5, 10, 15, 20-year phase of your life doing no touch knockouts or aikido or musical spinning bow staff forms, if that makes you happy and gets you out of the house and makes you friends, I'm overjoyed for you. And I think
Mm.
that's marvelous. It's not my taste, but it doesn't need to be my taste. And it should. I look poorly at people that judge that. I see lots of. So I really dislike the channel Muck Dojo Life because
Mm.
it's a let's laugh at some people that do this maybe once a week. You know, and it's
Well,
like, why would we laugh at that middle-aged mom? I mean, she's utterly butchering that bow kata, but she's having a good time. Leave her
mm.
alone. Stop being a dick. That could be your mom. You know, like uh,
I had Rob on my channel, and I'm kind of in two minds. I think
mm,
because it's his job, he's now needs to put stuff like that out to get
mm,
the views. But I think the idea of um, highlighting the like pedophiles is a good idea, and
mm,
highlighting what's going on so people have more awareness. So I think it started really good, but I think he's been lost sometimes because it's his job. So he needs to have eyeballs, and then he takes it to McDojo. I know there's lots of people hating my dojo, McDojos. I've been that person. I had a big issues with McDojos, but then I realized pretty much what you said, that people in McDojos know what they're subscribing to. People who teach it know exactly what they teach, and if they both happy, why not? Right?
exactly.
If they do 30 minutes of workouts, that's better than sitting on a couch.
There's a hot tip for you, actually. So there's a chap called Paul Harrison. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I
He's
know,
a
I know,
martial.
I know
Yeah.
Paul. Yeah.
So one of Paul's first jobs ever is he went to a GKR
Mm,
club, and I suppose for people watching and listening to this, this is essentially where you get given for no good reason your black belt and you go teach. Like it's like
mm,
I've got no bones about it. It's a Ponzi sales scheme, but it's really interesting how he explained how they prepared him. He's a smart guy, and they prepared him and they supported it, and they had a set process and a structure. And whilst that GKR experience gave him no useful martial skills, the having gone through that experience and learned from it, there was a lot of things of value there as well in terms of
mm,
how they structured and packaged and sold what they do. A
mm,
lot of clubs would be very wise to look at the GKR model and say, well, what of that? We don't like it ethically, but what of that worked, and what
mm,
could we learn from that? And what bits of that could we take away? So yeah, I think it'd be an interesting one to reveal what it's like to be in a muck dojo. But I think muck dojos are vital to martial arts. I think It's a bit like having a food chain, right? And if you take away the McDojo food, like that's like taking all the bugs out of an ecosystem. So
Mm.
then there's nothing to feed the birds, and then there's nothing to feed the cats, and there's nothing to feed something else. Like you need
Mm.
a layer of McDojo-ness. They fill a really important role for most people starting or trying martial arts, and
Mm.
that's fine because it's not a McDojo really. Like we use the term McDojo. It's not a McDojo unless you're being actually deceived, unless someone's going out of their way to deceive you.
Mm.
Like I don't think much of Aikido is useful at all. But I can't say it's a McDojo because
Mm.
they're teaching and doing Aikido. Do I think much Aikido? I think people can make it work, but I'd say as a rule, it's not great efficacy there.
Mm.
But I couldn't go out of my way and say it's a McDojo, but it fits part of that food chain, in that if I
Mm.
go into Aikido, do 5 years, think that was kind of fun, but actually that Thai boxing or BJJ club or Kyokushin club, that's me now. That's me at a bit more of a next level. Then
Mm.
the Aikido did its job. It moved you through into the
Yeah,
chain.
yeah.
In the
Yeah,
same way that a local drama club, it's not going to be as good as going to the top acting classes in the world, but you need to still have the local village hall drama groups and Christmas plays to feed the top performing Royal Shakespeare Company actors.
mm. Yeah, I've got few students of mine who went from the GKR and other local clubs that, but it's this other side of it is that, they coming with a black belt and high grade and then suddenly get punched in the face and it's like, oh, I didn't really learn anything, but the what was put in their head is that you are a legitimate black belt, you doing self-defense, you're gonna be super killer, and then comes up, short guy like myself punching in the face like, oh, it didn't work. My black belt is worth nothing. So it's kind of interesting for me, and I'm not saying I'm super great and stuff like that, but people coming to my dojo usually within 6 months taking their belts off and starting afresh, because we're doing things a bit differently. So it's kind of always wondering how much courage it actually takes to take off your belt, look in the mirror and say, well, we need to fix things. And I love that personally. I back in the BJJ and wearing that white belt, it's such a refreshing thing because you don't have that burden of being a teacher. You can do and just, I don't care, not my group. I'm just doing stuff.
I think the important thing is instructors allowing the students to come to that realization instead
Mm,
of saying, I've looked at you and you are no way black belt level, you are a green belt level. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
so psychologically and even though it's damaging for people.
yeah.
If you're a good club and you're wise, then they will come as a black belt, they'll do a bit and think, they'll come to you and say, you know what,
Mm,
I'm not quite there yet. That's the ideal to get to. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's very easy to shame people. And I see because I'm external to the karate world. Like I am karate adjacent. I've got lots of friends in it, but it's not my toy.
Mm,
And you'll get the sports guys that get looked on poorly by the bunkai specialists that get looked on poorly by the whatever people.
mm,
There's always that little bit of hate, little bit of bias. Like I personally like and think is quite good, but everybody slams it. I think some of the point fighters are really good and they're really fast and they can get stuff done. Like I've got no problem with semi-contact martial arts formats. They've all got
mm,
a value in there somewhere. And people laugh and say, "Oh, it's stupid. They're barely hitting each other." But I've done thousands of rounds in boxing where the contact hasn't been much more than that. Just drilling, sparring,
mm,
moving. It's a useful tool. We all do
mm.
it. But I think as soon as you put some pajamas on the people, you're like, it's the point fighter people, it's the semi-contact people. There's a
Yeah,
lot
I've
of
been
people.
I've been cured from thinking like that quite early. It must have been about 2003. So we've been always fed from Kyokushin side of things. We're the strongest karate. We can do it. And in the same room, so we be us karate people with the wrestlers, and opposite side was other karate and taekwondo. And we always been laughing at taekwondo. Wow, what they doing? till I didn't go for sparrings with them. And they're blitzing in with the punches in the face. I couldn't deal with it. I've been just outrun because we didn't do at the time punching to the face. And that was one of the most valuable lessons to not um, kind of not laugh, but what do you call it? Not adding value, underappreciated.
Yeah.
Help me. Don't be disrespectful to other people because what it looks like, and it's back to what you said, what it looks like from outside, it's completely different when you're standing against the man
Yeah.
or woman.
Everything looks slow and everything looks bad from your screen or from the side of the mat. Yeah. And from when you do stuff, people will be on the side of your mat going, "You look slow." Like I've had a lot of people that will see me in a YouTube video and they'll see me doing pads or they'll see me doing bags and they'll be like, you're wide open there, or you're slow there, or you're not moving your feet enough. The amount of time I get, you're not moving your feet enough, or your hand doesn't go back to your face. And then they'll spar me and I'll punch 9 holes in them without them being able to do anything. Like I can make me work. That's when you watch it from the side, it's easy to go, that's what I do, that's what I do. But you don't. So you have to be phenomenally talented to exploit the things your brain sees in real time. It's
Well,
easy to exploit the things your brain sees in passive time, but in active time, when you're in it, your mind might know, slip that, but you won't.
that's why we've got so many experts watching boxing, isn't it? Oh, he done this. Oh, I would do it like that. I would do it like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy. People really underestimate the time warp perception of adrenaline for both parties, in that you both think you're going really fast. You might be going relatively slow, but that doesn't matter. The time for the crowd doesn't really matter. It's only between me and my opponent. We're both in our own time, in our own measure. It's like you've made a world. You've made a world, and it's got different rules to anywhere else outside of that ring or off that mat.
Yeah.
Most BJJ, for example, looks painfully slow, doesn't it?
Yep.
When you watch it, it looks painfully slow. But when you're the person underneath and you can't breathe and you can't really figure out where someone's hand, arm, elbow, foot is, it's fast. So it looks slow, but it's fast. It's like the avalanche effect, isn't it? The avalanche is moving at 500 miles an hour. But when you watch the film of the avalanche, you're like, I'd run away. I'd climb up that tree. No, you wouldn't. You'd
Yeah.
be dead straight away.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so next question is from Netherlands, from Michiel. I don't know, did you ever met Michiel?
I can't remember. Maybe. If I have,
Very,
Michael, I'm curious.
very tall, skinny lad, super nice. So Michiel asks, I wonder what Tommy's thoughts are on finding the balance between soft skills and hard skills when teaching self-defense.
Okay. So I think we as a martial society have we've gone too deep into the soft skills pond, in that
Well,
a
that's
lot of
interesting.
martial arts instructors have become amateur psychologists, detectives, criminologists, lawyers. They call it the Miyagi effect, don't they? You expect everyone to be like Mr. Miyagi, who can fix your car, find you a girlfriend, solve your life, sort your knees out, teach you how to fight. It's fictional. We build up too much hopes for our sensei. They're just slightly better than us at stuff, and they only really should be fighting stuff that they're slightly better than us at. But I think with soft skills, like, controversially, I think drilling soft skills is largely a waste of time, and that's going to get me a lot of heat. But let's say you and I, Les, we are practicing verbal de-escalation. You know me and I know you. And no matter how much you might pretend to be a gangster from Brixton in London, in no way is how you speaking to me matching how actual gangsters speak to me. There's no fear, there's no worry, there's no surprise. These acting drills, they're very amateur dramatics, and people can get very good at fake arguing, and I'm not sure that's the best use of your dojo time. So I think learning the principles, how to how to disengage from a conversation, how to ask questions. What can I do to make this right? How can I fix this? So I do think there are certain powerful words and phrases and things you can learn, but I think too many people are putting a whole lot of time into verbal skills. And I also really think you've either got it or you don't. If you work as a teacher or a nurse, if you work in public services in any way, you'll get quite good at this. But I think it's largely a personal skill that you can't make much sharper. I also have this view of martial arts too. I think you can get better at martial arts, but I think whether you will fight back or not is largely already pre-decided in your genes, in your how you've been raised, what your mindset's already like. So whether you fight or not, I don't think that can be trained into you. It just is. And whether you can calm people down or talk your way out of it, I think to a great extent that's already pre-decided in your character. Are you funny? Are you calming? Are you aggressive? Those things are pre-set. It's like a computer game. You've already the characteristics have already been set. So yeah, I think soft skills, we put too much attention on it. It's important, but don't pretend you're good at them if you're not. Just refer people to others that are good at them. I see a lot of people that are really good at physical skills do a terrible job at verbal skills because they feel like they have to or they should. And I think a lot of martial arts clubs shame you into talking about soft skills more than you should. They're like, well, everybody should know the 37 points of de-escalation. Shit you not. I went to a instructor seminar once and there was a young lady up at the front and she started to talk to people about people's gut microbiome and how that may change how you can verbally de-escalate them or speak to them. And it's like, in a threatening situation, if you're thinking about someone's gut microbiome or their hormonal cycle, like, I don't even know what planet you are on. You've got too much time in your life.
Excuse me, sir, you ate too much carrots today. You cannot attack me. Your gut is
Yeah.
making you
It's,
confused.
it's not you, it's the carbs speaking. I understand, sir. You've had too much starch in your diet. No, so I get it. It's important. I don't really enjoy. I've got good soft skills personally. I can talk things down. I can make people laugh. I can typically empathize and use my voice well, but I don't enjoy teaching it. And it's not a fun thing for me. And no one is queuing up around the block for a Tommy Joe Moore speaking seminar. They
But have you tried it?
well, I've posted things on now areas where that's a bit different. I've had good success in teaching seminars, as in how to set better drills and to instruct better. I think that has value. But in terms of the soft skills, I think it's market value and its real value has come a bit out of kilter. And it's just an odd one. There's people talk about don't make the techniques too complex, right? So they say don't make the physical techniques too complex, and then they'll have 9 pages of content on how to say sorry, I'm not interested, mate, or I need to go, or please don't do that. They'll then make the verbal side really complex, and it needn't be. I think Joe Saunders does it very well because his kind of his teaching point is built first on empathy, and I think that's a really good learning point. If you can tap into the idea that I need to empathize with you, and there will be certain things that your ego will or won't want, and there's a couple of different keywords that are very powerful, that's a good bucket of knowledge. I think then people just overfill the bucket with more unnecessary drills and more unnecessary pseudo psychology. So much pseudo psychology in there. So much like college level psychology and philosophy that goes in that needn't really. You speak to any good A&E nurse, they'll have a couple of words they say that can calm down most people. That's all they need. They don't need a million seminars on how to speak to people. That should be the thing we're most good at and need to drill the least, how to communicate to people, surely. I don't punch someone in the face every day, but I speak to a human being every day that I'm alive on this planet.
True, very true. I think that's gonna put you in a bit of trouble again because you already get some hate from self-defense organization and clubs, isn't it? Because you hanging out with the karate folk and so on
They
and
all,
so
they
on.
all hate each other. It's so daft. I get problems from using the word self-defense. They're like, no, self-protection is the hard skills and self-defense is the soft skills and I'm like, according to who? When was this big grand council where we all decided what these words mean? Like, ask most normal people on the planet. Self-defense is defending yourself, whether that's verbally, legally, morally, ethically, physically. It's just that it's the easiest, most common sense way, simplest way to describe what we do. I will help. And people say, but self-defense makes you passive because it's got the word defense in it. No. You training in a system called self-defense doesn't make someone immediately go, I cannot strike, I must only block. It's just part of this martial arts pop culture.
That's karate for you.
But I think there's also mega myths in the martial arts. Like, to give you a mega myth, right? Because I've got one here. How many times have you heard the crap and what I think fictional stories where they say, I'm not going to hand you the knife back after we do the drill because I heard someone, when they were attacked, disarmed someone and gave the knife back. Like, these myths exist and people will swear that they know people that actually did this. I think there are so many mega myths that have been told so many times, people will blindly swear that it's actually happened and it happened to their Uncle Jeff. Like, there's millions of these like little pithy anecdotes and stories, and I'm like, no, this is not happened. This is nonsense.
Yeah, I like to ask people when they say, oh, and you do this and you break the arm, but how many arms did you actually broken? Oh, I didn't, by my teacher. How many actually your teacher broke arms in the training? Oh, I don't know. Well, probably not many, and it's possible, but it's probably very difficult to do.
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, for me, things like soft skills, yes, important. Yes, I think we make them over important. They're easy to teach lots of seminars about. They're easy to write books about. They're easy to make drills about, and that has made a market unto itself. But understanding that if things can't be talked down, you have to have the baseline physical skill. I think if you get the physical skill and you layer on the soft, for me, I think that algorithm works better than doing 9 lessons of verbal and 1 lesson of physical. That's just my take on it, because you will be able to intuit and naturally talk down a lot of things using your normal human being conversational powers if you're not an idiot. And if you are an idiot, no amount of teaching is going to help you anyway.
Yep, fair point. Yeah, I don't have I have a problem with this because I don't teach self-defense, so we do just sports or activity for mental health. So another question, this time from States, from Tom. How many arts have you trained, and in what are they? What are your favorite techniques? That's 2 questions. Xinjiang.
Shaolin eagle fat. Xinjiang. Boom, eat it. Oh God, loads and loads and loads of martial arts systems. So I was very lucky to start with boxing and judo, which, if you ask most people that have got a fair and impartial view, those are 2 pretty good things to start with, especially as a younger person, because my fear of being slammed on stuff and punched in the face has diminished hugely, because that has been so normal for so long of my life that I have very little worry or fear about being hit, knocked around, or being gripped and thrown. So I don't like, they inure you very quickly. And so I've got big lifelong passion. I don't do the judo anymore. I do occasionally do the sumo, which I quite like, because the hard thing with grappling is it requires so much more constant maintenance, in my opinion, than the strike, in that you can't really half-heartedly do your grappling. You could do your striking once a week, twice a week, whatever. I don't. I choose. I enjoy the striking. That's what I do. But I think there's no point half-assing your grappling. So I don't have enough time to put to it now. But I did for quite a long time. Thai boxing was something I did for many, many, many years, like a big stretch of time with Ben Bates, Eddie Quinn, Bob Spur. Where I'm from in Birmingham, there's a big Thai boxing scene. And is the prior pitch eye camps. I remember lots of interclubs, which I really enjoyed. So lots of fights. And I was always quite tall. So I'd end up fighting men. I'd end up fighting men all the time. And I'd be like 10, 11, 12. And there'd be like a 20-year-old I need to fight. And it'd be fucking terrifying. But that was also a good experience in a way. But I loved Thai boxing. I've got massive respect for that. And one of my first instructors in that, Eddie Quinn, who still teaches the Thai, but he's moved more into Salat. What I've found quite interesting is most of my Thai boxing instructors, as they've got old, have moved into Salat and martial artsy stuff. So in their younger years, up until their 40s, Thai boxing, Thai boxing, Thai boxing. And then all of them have then moved into something a bit more esoteric, like Salat or Kali or whatever. So it's an interesting observation. But a lot of how I teach is what I've discerned from Eddie Quinn, who is a marvelous instructor, a lovely man, extremely friendly. He did no martial arts. He intervened in a woman being attacked, and I think he got stabbed about 9 times. His body's full of holes. And he nearly died, and he came back to life. And the doctor said, "You need to get fit now to recover. Why don't you try something like martial arts?" And he did, and that's changed the entire nature of his life. But how he instructs changed the way I instruct. I'm from a very poor family, and my mum didn't have much money, and she sometimes struggled to get me to the place where the Thai boxing was. And Eddie would go out of his way, pick me up in his car, drive me there, like charged hardly anything. I've always been really lucky with instructors. Most of them have charged me very little because I train a lot. I've always been the person that's there for the 3 days and then the extra day. I've always been that person. And so, and you yourself, if someone came to you and said, "I can't afford it, but I really want to do it," you would say yes, or you'd find a.
We've got about 5 people like that time, driving them around, dropping off after classes, and
because they also what they lose you in money, they give you in energy. In that, if you're not at that class that day, everyone's a bit sad. It doesn't have the same. Sometimes you can lose you can have a student not be there, and that loses you the money. Not even. But yeah, Eddie Quinn, Nigel Trotman, who's a Jeet Kune Do instructor, trained with him for many, many years. I really enjoy Jeet Kune Do, because it's so personal. You can blend what you're good at. If you're good at boxing, cool. If you're good at kicking, cool. And I fought and competed in Savat for quite some time with my fab Frenchman, Alain Jean-Baptiste, most French name ever. He's not Frenchman, I think he's from Mali or somewhere like that, Maldives, Mali, somewhere like that. But people will not believe that I used to wear a elastic all-in-one singlet, and I used to kick people relatively high in the face. So yeah, I've done loads of stuff. They typically tend to be at the combat sports side. I've done very few martial arts. I've always been in the martial arts world, but in terms of the pajama world, be it silk Chinese or white Japanese, it's never really been my thing. But I've always trained with martial artists, weapon systems, Kali systems, Krav Maga, Kapap. Brett McKenzie, who's a good friend of mine. I've been too long, but learning firearms from him. So I'm always picking up something new and engaging stuff. But at its core, the boxing, the judo, that's been really important to me. Everything else is pretty modular. It fits what I wanted or needed at that time. Some things I keep up. Some things I don't keep up in a formal fashion anymore, but they make my personal training. Because sometimes people forget what you teach and what you train can be very different. There's things that I do just for me that never make it to a seminar, but I enjoy doing them and I'm good at them, but they're not what you come to a Tommy Joe Moore seminar for. Like people are not going to want to come to me for using, for types of using stick and a knife. They're very unlikely to come to me for that. I'm really good with 2 sticks, 1 stick, sticking up, but that's not my product that I sell, but it's something I can do well. And we've all got that. I think we've all got things that we're good at, that we teach and things we're good at that we don't. And I've been quite fortunate to do martial arts for so long that, you know, I always use the Batman analogy. Batman has a belt with his favorite tools, and he's got his back cave full of things he doesn't use very often but are still useful. And so I've got martial arts stuff that's on my back belt at all times, combatives, boxing, that type of stuff. But there's things in the back cave, you know, uses of weapons and different grappling systems and soft skills and first aid and martial arts and the law that aren't my jam to teach, but they're in my back cave. I can access them. And I think it's a really good way to think about things. And when your life changes, some things go from the belt to the cave, and some things go from the cave to the belt. And that will always flex. You know, when I become an older gentleman, I'm going to spend much less time boxing and a lot more time using sticks. I'm going to spend a lot more time doing other things. But, you know, just matching your martial arts to your life as it is now and understanding that that will change. I think that's a good, healthy behavior to have. But to answer the bloke's question, lots and lots of stuff.
It's nice to see that we've got a very similar, in a way, upbringing, martial art upbringing, because I never been afforded to have a classes, and I had the classes for free. I don't remember where I last time paid for classes, being back in Poland as well. Wrestling changed my life. Karate was always been there for a punching, kicking, but the grappling was wrestling. And I see karate as one of those activities like your coaches. You move into your 40s, 50s, because it's got that mobility aspects of it and longevity aspect with the katas. When I can be 90 years old and go to the park and do my karate. It doesn't involve punching, but I'm still doing my karate. I'm still doing something I love, and I think that's one of the reasons why I so enjoy doing karate.
Yeah, I think it's a natural lifestyle. You know, like people that loved boxing all their life, they tend to, when they get old, wear their coat, sit on the bench, gossip, grumble, drink coffee, and shout at young people and say, "Put your elbow in, turn your feet more." And old people that have done maybe more athletic karate as they get older, they're going to get a bit more into karate history or karate kata, or you know, they've all martial arts and combat sports. They've got a natural life cycle that you can fall into. So it's a very good thing about the karate world is there's lots of strings to it. So if you get to a point where you can't spar anymore, you can't do something, I can still be included in a class because we could do a kata class, or we could do a, you know, sanshin breathing class. There's always something you could do and be involved in. It might not be as martially effective anymore, but you can still do something. And that's what martial arts is good for, is that there's a lot of ways you might move more into the weapon forms because the unarmed stuff just is too much for you now. But you're still quite happy to maybe move a bow or a joe around or whatever you're into. So it's got good depth. I think things like karate have got really good. You can make it quite deep if you want to, and that's cool. I really appreciate that. I think that's a nice thing to have. You know, the heritage to it, the culture. If you want to get good at things that are outside of normal fighting, you can.
Sure. You know, it's a hobby, keeping you busy, keeping you out of trouble. So all good and positive.
Yeah, for me, the benefits of martial arts of all types for all people is phenomenal, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it to anyone. You know, I think it is. The instructor scene can be quite bitchy and backstabby, and so like martial artists at the upper level, I think is not particularly nice as a scene. But as the kind of the amateur have a go Thursday night at the leisure centre martial arts, you know, the big critical mass, the biomass there, I think that's so good for people, planet, society, keeping people connected, whether they're doing Tai Chi at 7 in the morning or whether they're doing Aikido every second Wednesday at the local scout hall, whatever they're doing, it's got so much power, and always back it and always love it. And I think that's the important thing. Just don't lose the love of it, and don't spend too much time just looking at your little pot. I mean, look around that big martial arts world and appreciate and steal stuff and learn from stuff. Even if you learn to avoid doing that kind of stuff in the future.
Mm,
Be really, I use this phrase a lot for my business stuff. If you want to be interesting, be interested. You know,
mm,
I'm not massively into ninja stuff, but I'll spend hours speaking to people that do ninjutsu and be like, oh, cool, how'd you do it? What'd you do? How'd you format your
mm,
classes? What that's about? You know, if you want to be an interesting instructor, you've got to be interested in that entire martial arts world if you can, and stay as interested and happy and active as long as you can.
Very, very good advice. I think next seminar we've got together, it's the Bunkai Bash, isn't it? And then you are doing a knife seminar for us. That's really personal for me to learn different things. We done together with Tomek from Poland with Defendo. That was interesting for me because it was first one when I looked into knives. So I'm looking forward to learning from you and seeing your style and choosing something that I can. Actually, my neighbor is gonna do the his with a spear system and Krav Maga
Cool.
locally, so we exchange over our fans ideas and stuff, and so he's gonna do seminar as well. So that's gonna be interesting for me. By yourself, you're every week somewhere, right?
Pretty much every week, um, and that's how I like it. You know, I'm at the moment I don't have kids, so I can get away with being away and traveling and teaching and learning very often. But what people don't see is that for every one thing I teach, I've probably attended two or three
Mm,
things as a person, as a guest, and so it's always a good reminder that you should always, if you're teaching a lot, take the time to be taught a lot too. If you can, if you can find a way, you get to stuff. But yeah, I'm very, very busy with martial arts stuff, but it makes me happy. And those are the fond memories I've got. And I've got lots of great friends in martial arts that transcend martial artsy stuff.
mm,
There's a lot of people I know that if I was to ever become particularly ill or have a catastrophe in my life or something go wrong, you know, there's lots of people, even people that have never really known me at a personal level, that would be a really good support network and that would
mm,
help me. And that's a really nice, good feeling to have. It's a good part of our culture. And you only get that by being on the road and supporting people yourself. If they've got
mm,
a charity seminar or they need some help, or something's happened to their dojo, there's been a flood and all their pads have melted, you know,
mm,
being the person that likes, comments, shares, supports, tells people off, gets people involved, being involved in that community is really important and good. But yeah,
yeah.
I'm everywhere.
Yeah, and you can see how that works because we had a few common friends that had the misfortune of either parts being stolen, like in Paul's case, and and setting that, would you GoFundMe or something like that, you could see how many people actually not knowing other person, just knowing, oh, this is martial artist needs a help. I can spend, pound, £2, £10, whatever they can, and it changes people's life, right?
Yeah, exactly. For most people, I'm fortunate that it's not. I'm more fortunate and unfortunate because I think it would be a lovely as to do as a full time job, but then
Mm,
would I think about it different and feel about it differently? Whereas for a lot of people that need support, that's the only thing they've got in the world. That's the thing that puts food in their fridge and lights in their house and a roof above their heads and keeps their children happy and healthy. So, like for those people, especially, we need to go the extra mile to help those people out. If that's their only source of income, then they're a really big priority to help keep them up and running and going and doing stuff. But I'd say it's a pretty good community for fundraising, support, share. As much as we all tend to bitch about each other, we also tend to help each other when people are having a
mm,
bad time. I've seen lots of really good things happen because
mm,
people pull together and, like you said, donate their time or their interest or their energy or their teaching or whatever they can do. If
mm.
you go right now, if someone on Facebook said, I've had all my pads stolen, immediately within a day, there'd be 100 people saying, I've got some spares. I can give you some.
Yeah.
I know a supplier that can do something for you. Yeah, straight away. Without
Mm.
question, most people would be in there helping. And that's lovely to see.
Are you changing slightly the subject? Are you writing anything? New book? You got successful books out, so
yeah, I love writing my books. I'm writing a book right now, which is difficult for me because I've made 3 technique orientated books, and people always say this one always makes me laugh. This is another martial arts catchism. I don't teach techniques. I teach principles. Fuck off. Shut up. Like, I mean, like,
I always struggle because I hear that a lot, and I'm thinking, okay, so I need to find some principles, and I struggle to fit principles into what I'm teaching.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I kind of doing a disservice to myself trying to find, okay, I need to try the concepts because I don't really understand what they mean by concepts. The
Yeah,
concept is to punch him in the face.
it's just another stupid thing that makes you sound clever. They don't teach techniques anymore. They teach principles. Yeah, but those principles are only useful if you got techniques, haven't they? If your principle is push and pull, when they push, you pull. Okay, that might be a principle, but unless I know how to turn that into a throw, a clinch and a hit, it's a useless piece of data. It's a useless data. But as an aside, so there's things like that flying around. So my latest book that I'm working on is about teaching, setting drills, running seminars, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be hardly any techniques in it. It's going to be things you can do to invent and make and work with different learning styles to create different drills and how to run good seminars and good classes where the energy is high. So it's going to be those types of things.
Pre-booked one, please.
Because there's nothing on it right now. If you were to go on Amazon, you've got techniquey ones like my books, or you've got blah 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 ones, which are like soft skills, 900 soft skills for angry accountants. And there's not much in the middle of those two worlds, whacking people and boring them to death. I want this book to be somewhere in the middle, where it's because a lot of people, they've been teaching in their club, they've been teaching there for 10 years, they don't go to many other things, and there's no real way for them to get more data outside of scrolling through YouTube. So my book will be about how to invent your own drills, play with stuff, how to research stuff. Like I said at the start one class today where we all walk outside for half an hour. Just have, you might think, oh, well, I've heard of that before, but unless you've got a book saying, right, I'm going to give you 30 weeks of interesting stuff. And week 17 is bring them in, then tell them to put their clothes back on and do this. It gives you things to do. Having things to do with your students that are fun and interesting, weird, different, but valuable. There's nothing really out there for that. So that's what I'm working on right now. But they're harder to write because the technique ones are technique A, do this, this, this. Technique B, this. Whereas these kind of books about drills and energy management, they're harder to write in an entertaining and short form. But that's my challenge, and I think people will like it. I think people will enjoy it, and it's what I'm known for as well. Like that, outside of any techniquey stuff, whether it's chin jab, right cross, wherever it is, really, why people will come and travel is because you're going to get taught something in an interesting way, in a passionate format, that whether you go back and do Wing Chun, Lao Gar, Karate, or Krav Maga, you can still take the drill that I've given you and use it. And a lot of people are quite open to say, oh, I like that, and that. I'm going to take that and use it. So yeah, that's the next book that I'm working on. Probably out Q4 this year, so December time. But I'm notorious for saying it's going to be out, and then it's actually out 5 months afterwards. But
yeah, it is difficult. I've got the same with my books. It's always plus, you got good English. My books are written in Pinglish, as my wife says. Then she have to look at it, and she's very busy with work, so it always takes ages for her to. So I'm writing books very quickly, just making the sense of them in English. It takes longer.
but I encourage everybody to write a book, and I'm sure you'd be the same. There's a really good African proverb, and it's when an old man dies, a library burns. And there's so many brilliant martial arts instructors that teach in a scout hut in Wigan to 7 people, and when they die, every good thing they ever taught will probably die with them. And that's really sad. And it's like, I think everybody in martial arts that's instructing has got at least one book in them. Sadly, for traditional arts, there is a really big, who am I, a lowly third Dan to make a book when Super Shihan ninth Dan, they've made theirs. Who am I to speak on behalf of Uchi Ryu Karate or Lao Ga Kung Fu when there's Master Wong from Hong Kong that's done it since he was 3? People that are, well, who am I? There's probably too much humility in there. It's like, who are you? You're a person that's been teaching this to people for over 40 years, and you will have accrued drills and stories and content that might not be anywhere else in the world. And you are one badly formatted, published book away from sharing it with people. You need to be a brilliant, amazing book, but you get something out there, get a blog out there, get a YouTube. If you can't make a book, make a YouTube channel. Even if there's no one on it, it just having that record of you in space and time is important. That's why I always insist on my books as well as my YouTube. I know that maybe in 20 years, YouTube won't exist anymore and it'll be something else. But I know that those books will be somewhere on someone's shelf. And I know this, I buy books that are hundreds of years old about boxing and wrestling and fencing. So, making some physical media is important. So I think books and digital platforms together, it's a really good combination. But every good martial arts instructor has at least got one in them if they're brave enough to put it out there. And they should not listen to the inner demon of, who am I to be doing this?
Yeah, I can attest that because I've been suffering with that for a long time. And when you overcome it once and had a positive feedback from the other people, it's really encouraging to do stuff. And now I think my old karate friends have enough of me because when I start talking, oh, that's interesting, you should write a book about it. It's like, when are you going to write your book about it? Oh, just leave me alone. I don't want to write books, but you should.
Yeah. And it's good, like, I think that's why your anxious black belt format works. You're never going to get anxious Masayama, are you? Like, all of the karate heroes are shrouded in a fictional story of I'm chopping bulls and I'm fighting 100 men and I'm living under a waterfall and I only eat moss. And they've become a manga, they've become a story, they've become a Superman. And that has benefits because having heroes that are really good at stuff is cool. If that, I saw Masayama did that 100-man kumite, I want to do a 100-man kumite. That's cool. But you should also role model just being a normal human being that's got worries and anxieties and fears and hopes and someone that learns. Let's take Masayama again, in the story, the novel of Masayama, he doesn't really fail, does he? He doesn't really get knocked back. He doesn't think, shit, what if I can't fight 100 men at the same time? At no point will they talk about, crap, 100 men, I might get battered. But your books can. Your books can say, I did that competition and I was terrified. That's real. Fighting is terrifying. Like, I've got a low-level 3-round match on Saturday. The odds are I'll probably win, but I will still Saturday morning be absolutely in my mind like I'm about to go to war with a bear, knowing full well that it's very unlikely I'll suffer any harm at all. But like, if you don't confess to people that you've got fears, anxieties, that you've got ego, things like this. I'm well known for doing martial arts, combatives, and self-defense. If I have a match and I lose horrendously, a portion of people that follow me will then not follow me. And there's these that and it would be awful to confess it, but it's true. There's a fear of failing, there's a fear of pain and injury and death. All of these things are possible in that world, and only real humans can feel those fears, and everybody has it. So I think that's why your anxious black belt stuff is so good, because your Masayamas or all your different Okinawan master stories, very seldom do they go, I was terrified, I was a bit poorly, I'm not sure this will actually work. They don't have those human traits that you can put on a page and in your podcast. So I think that's really good. And more martial artists should talk about the things they're scared of, that they're afraid of, that they're anxious about, that they're proud of, that they shouldn't be proud of. Just put your humanity out on a page.
Yeah, I've got a hugely positive feedback on when I teach seminars, and more people booking me now. Can you do half an hour talk about your experiences in karate and your fears and stuff? And it's a massive feedback in people crying and everything. And I always taken aback. It's just a story of me, and it's so emotional for people because so many people going through exactly same shit as I thought. I thought I'm in a way special because I've got such a bad things and afraid of this, but most of the people got exactly the same things. You just don't realize it that there's other people out there because you're so embarrassed to talk about it that you don't reach out to other people and say, "Oh, actually, that's pretty normal." Everybody's going and that, and we can gather up together and build ourselves up.
Yeah, I mean, like talking about failures. Like when I had Joe Saunders come over for a seminar, I thought it would be a really big hit, and it
Mm,
cost quite a lot of money to get Joe over. And I had for 2 days maybe 7 to 8 people, and it got nowhere near to financially covering me
mm,
to get the flight sorted and the accommodation, all sorts of stuff. And I had to take out from my credit card quite a lot of money and miss rent payments. I've had seminars where I paid for loads of stuff and had hardly anyone turn up. And
mm,
like it punches you right in the bollocks when you set something up and you think it's going to be good and you're pretty good, and then you get 3 people and one of them flakes anyway.
mm,
That possibly does you in. I've started clubs where they have not taken off. I've had maybe one person turn up consistently, like, I'm so sorry to let you down, but I can't run a club on one
mm,
person and the guy that comes one in every 2 sessions. And it's heartbreaking. The amount of seminars I've set up that failed, classes set up, failed. And people think that the more well known you get, it's guaranteed.
mm,
But I could set up 3 seminars and have 50 people, 50 people, 2 people. And there is no
mm,
rhyme or reason for that to happen. But people don't appreciate how upsetting, expensive, heartbreaking it is to
mm.
organize things, run things, and have no fuckers turn up.
Yeah,
And so it's good to talk about.
I'm expecting that happen to me this June. We've got Ken Knight coming from States. I won't say how much is it, but it's gonna bankrupt me. But at the moment we got 2 people. So many people saying, "Yeah, we want it," and you going and Christian coming from Germany as well, and it's 2 people registered. But hey, how that's life. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah. But you got to talk about it because there's so many people out there that are
Mm,
just like, that's their horrifying experience.
mm,
Uh, but we've all been there. We've all been there where you've taken a chance, gone with an instructor you thought would be popular, isn't popular, no fault of their own or your own. It's just the
mm.
gods have decided that that weekend there are 7 other seminars on, and your
Yeah.
regulars are poorly, and any number of reasons. Um, but that's just a normal part of how we go about our trade, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes you think there's going to be 10 and there's like 40 people. You're like, fucking hell, what's happened here?
Mm,
um, but not enough people talk about the loss and the fear it is to host and do stuff.
mm,
Easy to attend or to be a guest instructor at someone else's thing. It's a lot more terrifying for it to come out of your wallet and your time and
mm,
it be your effort. So, anyone that ever hosts me at a seminar, um, I really do acknowledge that is a risk for them. And so I will go out my way to try and promote it and talk about it and share it. But yeah, it's an important thing. That's why I think your Anxious podcast is good, because it could address things like that.
mm,
I'm afraid to put on this seminar. I'm worried that I'll have to close my class. I'm feeling sad because people have been a dick to me online about my stuff. It's good to talk
mm,
about that stuff because we've all been there. I make jokes about trolls as much as everyone else, but there are
mm.
sometimes the trolls get me, and I'm like, "Oh, you bastard! I feel really shit." We all get it.
It is difficult. It sometimes, you can have as thin skin as you can, but somebody hits you in that pore and goes through like butter and just like, ugh. For me, the worst thing is when people commenting about me, I'm not having a problem. But if I do seminars or somebody picks on somebody else, that hurts a lot. It's just like you're picking on somebody who is 60 years old because he didn't do a spinning back kick properly. Oh, fuck off, really. But that gets me. That gets me a lot. And so when you got your into seminars, how long did you take you of failure to actually make a breakthrough? Because I've got a lot of questions now when I'm sort of popular. A lot of people, I think, because I'm not as popular as Ian or other people, reaching out to me and asking, "Oh, how did you start it? What did you do? How long did it take you? How did you set it up?" And if you tell them, "Sorry, it's 7 years of being a one person or maybe two people turning up, forming a club, you pay for a hall, like you said, it's expensive and so on, but just that being stubborn bastard who doesn't give up eventually pays off." How was it for you, that journey?
There's no magic trick. It is do stuff often, and if you are good, eventually people will talk to other people. The best networking is word of mouth.
Mm,
So they'll be like, "Oh, I went to that Les Bubka thing. That was really good. Do you want to come with me?" Yeah, all right, I'll go to the Les Bubka thing. And then you got two people saying, "I quite
mm.
like the Les Bubka thing. I'm gonna," and that takes huge amounts of time to build up. So I don't know if are you familiar with the Kaizen events at all?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Kaizen events are like one of the UK's biggest martial arts shows. And I went to Kaizen 1 and I was one of the instructors there. And I had 3 people turn up. And I was in some back room somewhere. One of them was Paul, that I was talking about earlier. So it's Paul and his wife came to my mat, and I really appreciate them for that. There's even pictures of me on my lonely mat with with Paul and Sam. And then the second year, I had a slightly better slot, and I had about 10 people come. And then each iteration since, I've been on the main stage, on the main mats, next to really famous people, like really people that are really too good to be teaching on the same mat as me.
Mm,
Um, so it just takes time. If people like you, they will come and they will talk to others, and that will multiply. I think if people wanted to hack it in a way, my advice would be find a popular instructor and teach a small thing at a seminar where there's lots of people. So if
mm,
you can black yourself 20 minutes at an Ian Abernethy seminar, you've at least shown what you've got or a flavor of what you've got to perhaps 80 people. Yeah.
mm,
And that might be the thing that builds your reputation. But really, I would say there's no shortcuts. It's
mm,
constant grind. And at any point, you can go from very popular to very unpopular again.
mm,
It's not consistent. And people sometimes think they've completed you. So I get this a lot. They go, well, I've done your World War II seminar and I've done your Boxing for Self-Defense seminar. So I have completed 100% the Tommy Moore
mm,
program. And you might say the same, say in karate, like someone might say, well, I've done your Motobu drills seminar and I've done your Naihanchi Bunkai seminar. See, I know karate words, all right? People,
mm.
whatever you're famous for, people can think they've completed it. And then you don't get booked again. And you're like, so you think the 2 4-hour segments you had with me is everything I've got in the world to teach you? You're having a laugh. But it does. People do that. People look at an instructor, have them teach their most famous thing and perceive that as booked. So it's probably another reminder for instructors that are watching this that you might be on a wave of popularity now,
Mm,
but just as quickly you could disappear. So don't rest on those laurels. Just keep doing it. It will wave up and down. You will have
mm,
lots and none, and lots and none, and lots and none, and that's absolutely okay as long as you're happy. As long as you're happy, and as long as you're not being out of pocket, then that's okay. You try and fail and try and fail. There are a lot of people that just sell out a seminar by default straight away. and there are some it takes time, and that will chop and change. It's not like I'm teaching my first seminar with Ian, but my audiences and Ian's audiences, those are probably quite different. So that'll be an interesting seminar because there'll be different tribes of people there's some people in the middle, but there's also two different tribes. It's very interesting. He's obviously very, very popular instructor. So it'd be cool to see how things like that work. But it's terrifying and daunting, and you will have really good seminars and really shit seminars. And some of my favorite seminars have been where I've had 5 people and it's been a complete financial washout. But all 5 people have really valued the fact that I go there. You know, I travel a lot. I'll travel to bumfuck nowhere in Cumbria to teach a seminar at a small club, knowing full well that the cost of my petrol will be more than whatever they pay me. But I'll still go there. You know, I can't do it all the time, but if I can and I can afford it, I'll help people out. So yeah, I don't think there's any secret. There's no quick way to get popular. All you can do is be authentically you. And if you are good, and you might not be as good as you think you are, but if you are good, people will talk about it and they'll book you more. And most bookings you'll get will be, I went to your seminar at Bunkai Bastards. I really liked you. Would you teach at my club? You know, that's how it's going to be. And because you can only do so many of those things in a year, it takes years to build up a decent reputation that you can comfortably say, I'll get 30 people at that seminar. Yeah, it takes years and years and years.
Yeah, that's what I done. Exactly what you said. I team up. I've been fortunate that quite famous people in UK like Ian, Don, Brian Bates, and people who organize things been kind enough to me to allow me either to book them as we both together teaching and share the space with me, and yeah, it's kind of keep rolling, right? You invite them, they invite you, and we all can build each other up, and that was the way that I tried on my own and failed for many years in having 2 3 people on the seminars, mostly people from my club. um but then if you start believing in yourself and not putting yourself down, the things start happening, right? I think Mark Jardine said to me once that you have to keep going, pushing that ball on the hill, and eventually it's gonna tip over the peak and then start rolling down, and it's gonna be dragging you with it. So I firmly believe that's what it is. You just have to put the effort in it and don't be discouraged, and eventually you get there.
I also think what really helps, because people listening this far in, they've gone the extra mile, but if people are still tuned in, what they should remember is make it easy to be a product. A lot of people, they won't ask you to be a seminar because they're worried you might be expensive or they're worried you might not travel. So try and be really transparent and open. You know, uh, Steve Lowe is really good. Steve Lowe's like, whatever you charge, I'll take half. So if you charge £50, I'll take 25. You charge 10, I'll take 5. You know, it's a really open, transparent model. So if you're very clear and open with things like pricing and travel and availability, it feels awkward to talk about, but it gets rid of that initial fear. You know, I'm a relatively popular instructor, and a lot of people would assume that I'm very expensive. I'm phenomenally cheap. If I let people pay at all, I'm ridiculous. But there's a perception that if you have pretty full mats, you're going to be, I want at least £1,500 travel expenses. I want this, I want that, I want half in advance. Ugh. Most people are so reasonable. You just got to ask. And your idea of what they cost and what they really cost is often very different. And don't forget to haggle as well. You can haggle and talk about prices, payment plans. Like, okay, I'll come to you. It'll cost this, but you can pay it over 3 months if you like. There's ways in which you can negotiate. So you don't treat martial arts as any different from buying a car, going shopping. It's not really. You're working with a freelance artist. It's but you can help yourself get more bookings by making it really clear what you charge, how to book you, where to book you, where you've got gaps. That really does work in your favor.
Oh, it does. You're right, because every time I post my schedule, There's somebody asking, "Oh, could you do this? Could you do that?" And yeah, you just ask. If you are upfront, if you want to organize seminar and you upfront, listen, my customers are my students are not from a rich backgrounds. I think everybody's gonna do concession. Just talk to me, and then we can figure out a way. I want to teach, you want to have me. Sure, I need to pay the bills, but we can find a way that it works for both of us. So I think I done that with Clary Monsfield in
Yeah,
saving the judo club. So I give him a charge. It wasn't very much. It covered my petrol, covered my time, and he made 3 times more to put into the judo session because so many people came in to support that rescue of that judo club, which I hope it's all good because that was after COVID, so they had a huge heating bill and they needed like 800 £900, and we managed to raise it. I think
absolutely.
nearly. So, speak to people from my point of view, speak to people. We are trying to help each other. So there is a room for a negotiations and having a good deals.
Yeah. Don't
So,
guess, just ask. Just
mm,
most people are very polite. Even if it's I'm too booked or I can't do it for less than that. At least you know where you stand. You might as well, just ask.
mm,
But my experience, most martial artists that are good and kind and decent won't trust you the earth and will negotiate and meet you in the middle.
mm,
And you should say, look, I live in this part of the world. I can only get X amount of people. So this is where I'm at. What could we do for that?
mm,
Could you still come, but we teach for fewer hours? Uh, you know, could you bring stuff to sell once you're there? What can we do? That's
mm,
uh, those conversations are good to have. But if you want to get booked, make it very clear and transparent as to what you can do and how you can work. I think that will help. That's something I didn't do for a while, and a lot of people assumed I was expensive
mm,
because they never asked.
mm,
Um, but now a lot of people have the courage, and because I'm quite a social person, you can always find me online.
mm,
Most people are now quite happy and understand that I'll have really open conversations. So yeah, just be open. Just always
mm,
always be open and clear. But I'd say there's very few shortcuts to being seminar seminar famous. I suppose if you get booked a lot, there is no shortcut to it other than do them often, be good, and if you're as good as you think you are, will book you again and again, and they'll book you
mm,
repeat. You know when you're doing well when you get repeat bookings every year with the
yeah.
same club. That's when you know you're actually moving in the right direction. I would rather do a seminar a year for a club I like than lots of different clubs. That shows
Mm,
me that they valued the first one and will do more. And I think that's a good place to be.
mm. And I would say that would like the I was talking with Christian about I always have a fear of asking people for that refusal and stuff. And he said 3 things can happen. People can say no, fuck no, or yes.
Yeah,
But if you don't ask, you will never know.
yeah,
So yeah.
exactly, mate.
Thank you, Tommy. I think we're gonna finish on this one. Ask, and then you will have your answer. Um,
Absolutely.
thank you very much. It's always pleasure to talk to you. I don't think so. We need to put your where to find you. You're over everywhere on all the platforms. I'm gonna put the links to your stuff in the show notes. And I'm
Awesome.
gonna see you on the floors in very short time. In June, isn't it?
Yeah, Jude, mate. I'll see you there. Last time I taught there, I remember my voice had gone. So it was my first bunko bash, and I could not make an audible sound. So
Hmm.
that's the thing you need to be ready for as an instructor. No matter what you do and how much you prep, something's gonna get you. So
Hmm.
you're ready for anything. But I'll see you
If you
there. But
if you lose your voice, I've got my son coming with me who's got a 96, 98 decibels voice, so he can shout for you.
good man.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, buddy.
Uh,
Bye bye.
Let me just switch that off.
Sports Social Podcast Network.